Ken Leakenstein exclusive. Leak message from Charlie Kirk assassin. Accused shooter's politics is not what the government and media say. Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. Thus, Tyler Robinson messaged his friends on Discord, seemingly apologizing for murdering Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry for all of this. I obtained this and other Discord chats. I've decided to publish. The legacy news media, as usual, refuses, along with new information I've learned about Robinson from the people who knew him best. I just saw the video. Holy shit. RIP, I guess. Bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Sad. Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a... Wait, what the Oh, usernames are redacted because I know what his username is. This is not what his username is. I have his Discord username. This is not it. Anyway, it's not Zealous Monkey 55095. He changed it. Okay. Ken changed it for this article. He's saying this is the username. Wait, what the He has multiple. I have 2 Discord usernames. This is not the one I had. Wait, I'm going to text him. Hold on. Okay, so Ken has one of the usernames, he says, and it's possible the New York Times is a different one, or all these other outlets have different usernames. Anyway, hey guys, I have bad news for y'all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. Trump and company portray the alleged Utah shooter as left-wing, and liberals portray him as right-wing. The federal conclusion will inevitably be that he was a so-called nihilist violent extremist, NVE. Meanwhile, the crackdown has already begun. As I reported yesterday, the country's practically ready to go to war. It's been so terrible, and seeing it from an inside perspective is so frustrating. A friend of Robinson since middle school told me, the childhood friend who asked not to be named for fear of threats, provided me with the above non-public photo of Robinson on a camping trip, a favorite activity of his, to corroborate their relationship. I think the main thing that's caused so much confusion is that he was always generally apolitical for the most part, the friend told me. That's the big thing. He just never really talked politics, which is why it's so frustrating. The picture that emerges bears little resemble to the media version. Robinson, I am told, though quiet, was a well-liked person with a supportive family. The friend group who he interacted with on Discord, far from some kind of militia camp or Antifa bunker it's been portrayed as, represented a range of different political views, but mostly talked video games. Yesterday, FBI Director Kash Patel said in an interview that Robinson subscribed to left-wing ideology, citing his family's remarks to the investigators. But those close to Robinson say there was a lot his family didn't know about him. Their ideas are based on someone they didn't fully understand, the childhood friend told me. Though the family was generally supportive of Robinson, a claim corroborated by his mother's Facebook account, brimming with praise for Tyler, they didn't seem to know about his relationship with a transgender person named Lance, the friend said. When I asked if his family would have been accepting, the friend replied, I don't think even Tyler knew the answer to that question, which is why he kept it so low-key between themselves. Tyler's bisexuality, the friend said, was coupled with an openness on LGBT issues. But his wasn't some cookie-cutter lefty position on every or even most issues, his friends say. Obviously, he's okay with gay and trans people having a right to exist, but also believes in the Second Amendment, the friend said, referring to the right to bear arms, which again, that doesn't mean that this person is not like a leftist either, for the record. These kinds of things don't immediately reveal your position, okay? Just so you understand. The friend described Robinson as a fairly typical of a young man from his age from Utah, someone who loved the outdoors, was a gamer, and into guns. To all of us, he just seemed like a simple guy who liked playing games like Sea of Thieves, Deep Rock Galactic, and Helldivers 2, loved to fish and loved to camp, the friend said. It didn't really seem like that's all he was about. Helldivers 2 Into the Unjust Deep Dive, one step closer to finding the DRG dwarves. The phrase inscribed on one of the bullet cases from the shooting, "Hey Fascist Catch," though widely reported to mean he was a man of the left, is in fact a reference to the Helldivers 2 game. The 3 arrows, initially believed by federal agents to be a reference to Antifa, is also a reference to the Helldivers. Private Discord messages shared with me by a friend of Robinson's can confirm Robinson wasn't some political martyr. A search of posts for Robinson's containing keywords like Biden and Trump turned up with just 1 hit each. The Trump post was a passing reference to the 2019 impeachment inquiry. The Biden one came on a day after the 2020 election, where he provided an update to another friend asking about the status of the vote count. An impeachment inquiry has been placed against Donald Trump. He could get booted out if they find he committed the he's accused of. Who's winning the election? You would know, one of his friends asked Tyler Robinson. Biden is in the lead electoral votes-wise, but there are still some swing states that haven't finished voting, as well as most of the West Coast. Raw votes, Donald is in the lead by a little over 1 million votes. Who is probably going to win? He says, I'm not sure. When will we know? Not until pretty late, but we should have a pretty good idea by the end of the night, unless it's really close or something. He says, K. The childhood friend is a member of multiple Discord chats with Robinson. He described the group as trying to grapple with Robinson's motive, just like everyone else. Even the goodbye message he sent in one of our servers, where Discord Discord chats were hosted was so hard to believe. We all just thought, what a weird joke to make. Then the news came out and we were all calling each other saying, check the news. He said, yeah, I don't know what makes a person like him decide he's going to drive 260 miles upstate to shoot someone like Charlie Kirk, then come back like nothing happened. It leaves a lot of room for speculation and theories, which is why I think they're so rampant. Part of the confusion he attributes to Tyler's quiet nature. He was a really smart guy, but super hard to read, stone cold poker face, and you could always never be confident assuming anything. When I asked if he opened up to anyone, the friend replied, as far as we knew, he was opened up. What does that even mean? Despite his verbal reticence, Robinson was not a loner, according to his friends. Unlike the stereotypical outcast shooter driven to violence. Oh, they're saying he was opened up. Like that's all they knew. They thought they knew him. He was apparently amiable and well liked. Everyone who knew him liked him. Remember when I said, even on a cursory glance of the shooter's like profile, he doesn't actually fit the bill in the same way that like Luigi Mangione doesn't fit the bill of stereotypical shooters demonstrating antisocial personality disordered behavior, loners, alienated, isolated from friends and family, sometimes finding themselves deep in the precipice of like online radicalization through like Discord servers all the way to Telegram and stuff like that. This guy straight up is just like as normal as you can be, which by the way, I think this right here, the fact that this shooter is as normal as you can get and someone who, as a matter of fact, had a bright future, as someone would say, right? That is unique when you look at the rest of the school shooters, mass shooters, people engaging in like any sort of violence like this. And I think that's reflective of the times changing. Like it's more so, yes, as the chatter says, an indictment on the state of affairs. You got weirdos doing violence. Obviously, there are things that we can legislate to try and limit the amount of ultra violence that we experience on a daily basis. But when you got like a radical, centrist, apolitical guy with a bright future ahead, all of a sudden when they're doing stuff like this, and if it's like even with Luigi as well, like people who are well liked, people who have a social life, all of a sudden, when that happens, like that is interesting. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. A Discord post from another friend posted the day after the shooting reads, while Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I asked that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Yeah, like if this was like a Antifa Discord server and the way that these guys were presenting it, they'd be like, you. God isn't real. There'd be like 8 people in there yelling about how even you invoking the name of God triggers me because I'm an atheist. And then they would like all yell at the person and probably they'd be like, we need a new splinter Discord group away from these freaks, you know? I think this is a pattern with white cis shooters lately. Middle class experience hardship, realize it's affecting their marginalized friends most, and not being able to process it is the IRL version of just found out about racism. That sucks. I mean, there's not really any other evidence of this. This is the first of its kind. I wouldn't even say that this the same with like Luigi Mangione, because Luigi Mangione obviously was like impacted, harmed by healthcare, the privatization of healthcare. He was impacted personally, and then that is the reason why he allegedly planned the shooting of UHC CEO Brian Thompson. Hey everyone, if you have not seen the news yet, Tyler's post above, it true. He was taken into custody earlier today for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. While Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. The last message is religious in nature, which just goes to show the apolitical nature of the server. We all have pretty differing views on politics, the friend said, of the Discord post. We all just exist as friends and just play stuff. Cat memes, weather updates, home improvement, and the odd Garfield reference populate Robinson's post. I'm going to eep pretty soon. Very eepy, he said in one post, an intentionally silly misspelling of the word sleep, a common Gen Z convention. He was Bedboj Inspector. Another John Arbuckle appears. It says gullible on the ceiling. Cat memes. Screenshot of another Discord chat where Robinson went by the username Bedbudge Inspector. Spring in New Hampshire. Spring in southern Utah. Had to replace a monitor that was on a wall mount. The top 2 mounting points needed to have a standoff, but the person who did the initial install didn't have them, so they just stacked like 8 washers to make a connection. Lol. I know the feeling. The federal government, the Washington crowd, and corporate media based in Washington and New York see the country in wholly partisan terms. Republican versus Democrat, red versus blue, old media versus social media, liberal versus conservative, right versus left, straight versus gay, and on and on. Charlie Kirk's assassination in Utah should remind us of the actual diversity of the nation and of the cost of polarization that demonizes the other side. No one in Robinson's group is cheering or justifying the murder in any of the messages I reviewed. They're just struggling to understand what their friend did. But Washington has become obsessed with the Discord chat, convinced it's some kind of headquarters for the murder and cauldron of radicalization and conspiracy. Today, FBI Director Patel vowed to investigate anyone and everyone in that Discord chat. Yeah, this is also another unfortunate byproduct of having like extremely offline boomers or online boomers that are online in the worst ways possible because their only understanding is like Facebook posts or whatever, trying to investigate this and trying to find why this took place, right? And they obviously are completely unequipped to do so. Like, it's crazy how mild this dude's Discord profile is. It is insane. I cannot comprehend it. Like, unless he was living a double life as like some kind of political radical, like the act that he took, the act that he engaged in is so radical that when you look at his Discord profile, it gives me whiplash. Like, this is the most like normal guy that did such an abnormal thing. What I see is a bunch of young people shocked, horrified, and searching for answers like the rest of the country. Yeah, remember what I talked about with like spontaneous murder, like the stabbing that took place on the subway against the Ukrainian refugee. Like, that's a really terrifying thing for a lot of people because like it's truly utterly senseless. It doesn't have any sort of like logical reasoning behind it. Like, there's no logical through line, right? This is not a justification of that, obviously, but there's no logical through line to the actions of the killer in that situation. So like, terrifies people because it's truly and utterly unpredictable, and therefore there is not even any sort of like there's no security standard that you can apply in that circumstance. And this kind of feels like that in the way that like if there was at least some sort of like logical through line here with respect to this person's actions, like, or his radicalization, there's at least something you can point to about how he arrived at this position. But there is nothing, it seems, at least from what we have seen from his profile, that indicates that. If you want the new messages in writing, they show it at page 8 on the indictment. Yeah, we'll take a look at the indictment. Obviously, this is what we wanted to see. Notices bulge ovo, that's the letters on the casings. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to police. I suspect that, I mean, this is the girlfriend who is trans. That's the reason why they're saying a biological male. This is also another one of those problems with like not correctly classifying things for political purposes that make it a little bit confusing. So you have to like read between the lines, I assume. What's the evidence this person is trans? Other people have stated this. Like, they looked through the person's Reddit profile. Like, they were in a lot of DIY HRT subreddits, things of that nature. Before the roommate segment, they talked about how his family confronted him. Yeah. Look, here. Robinson's mother stated the following to the police. On September 11th, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was home. He was at home sick, and that he had also been at home sick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her father. The suspected shooter looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members. So like, one thing you have to understand is like, put yourself in the mindset of like a Mormon mom in Utah. From their perspective, like, Tyler Robinson became woke, okay? All of a sudden. They think like he got radicalized into being woke, which is, again, a fairly normal position to be like, yeah, I don't, you know, I think it's fine. I'm pro-gay and pro-trans rights. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's not that big of a deal. Like, the reason why that's being presented as woke is because the right want to make the most normal position that one can have, which is to not just like have unlimited hatred in your heart for trans and gay people. They want to present that as like a woke position. It's not a woke position. It's just like a normal position. Of course, for a Mormon MAGA family, probably not. How is having sex with a trans girl not woke? I mean, it's like asking me, how is having sex with a black girl not woke? Okay. Depending on which family you're talking about, they could consider that to be woke, okay? That's my point. Do you not understand? Also, there are mad chasers that are right-wing as well. Alex Jones is a fucking chaser. Nick Fuentes is a chaser. What are we talking about? There's hella right-wing people that are chasers too. So it doesn't even like give you a consistent ideological profile in that regard. Also, this is Gen Z. Mad Gen Z is gay, bisexual, pansexual, whatever the okay, so from that standard, even the most right-wing motherfuckers on the Gen Z side are woke, okay? But they're not. Nick isn't a chaser. He's just gay. Sorry, I fucked it up. He's not a chaser. He just into cat boys and went on a date with a cat boy because he's gay. Now it's woke to fuck a woman. We may now fuck men. Exactly. It's woke, dude. It's woke. Ew, dude. You're going to fuck a pussy? Gross. You're going to, what? Be around a woman? That is woke, dog. Real men fuck men. That's gay as hell to have sex with a woman. Yuck. Gross. Be a real man. Men only. Anyway, where were we? She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense because, like, it seems like Tyler Robinson was also sheltering their family from this information. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle the police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. However, Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson, and Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there's too much evil and the guy Charlie Kirk spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who was a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all the evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The family friend also asked Robinson if he had any clothes that were related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. So then we get into the roommate, but the parents' suspicion is that the roommate is trans, right? Which, of course, corresponds to like all of the assessments made by other people about the roommate's Reddit profile, which was definitely the profile of someone who was in the process of engaging in gender confirmation, transitioning, right? You know, DIY HRT subreddits, things of that nature, from what I understand, according to Liv Agar's assessment. So then we get to the roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male, a trans woman, who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to the police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you are doing, look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm gonna take it." Police found a photograph of this note. Oh, that's how they found the note. So that's not even a manifesto. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right? I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. You weren't the one who did it, right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the f will I explain it losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge uvu on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Robinson, delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. You are all I worry about, love. I'm much more worried about you, says the roommate. Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Bro assassinated Charlie Kirk, but was still scared of what his dad has to say. I mean, exactly. That gives you a little bit of the mindset of this person who, like, that in and of itself kind of feels like this dude is not this radical Antifa super soldier type. You know what I mean? He didn't think it all the way through in a way. Dude, he has no OPSEC whatsoever. All of this obviously is like zero OPSEC. Not only that, but he planned it in a week, which sounds insane. Like in 1 week, he was like, oh, Charlie Kirk's coming to my neighborhood. That's terrifying. Low key. Not even low key. That is high key terrifying that like someone could just like find out that a public speaker who is a political commentator is coming to your neighborhood, and it takes 1 week for them to basically decide, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna plan it out and basically almost get away with it too. Like, it's crazy. I guess it was also understandable that he was afraid of his dad, because the reality of the matter is the gun, if he had actually gotten the gun, he could have probably told his dad like, oh no, I have the gun right here. You know what I mean? So considering that his family turned him in, he wasn't wrong to be worried about that part. It wasn't even his neighborhood. It was like 200 plus miles away. I know. But like their state. From my perspective, I will say this much. I do a lot of events. I'm outside all the time. I'm around other people all the time. I'm in public all the time. I go to chaotic situations. I go to rallies and shit. And the only time where I feel a sense of danger is when I'm in like red states. The only time I've had like any interactions while doing like IRL streams, for example, have been in red states, whether it be Nevada or whether it be Texas, even in blue areas in red states, right? Because of that reason, people do drive hundreds of miles to do like witness tampering pertains to Robinson's statement to his roommate, telling the roommate, if any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. I don't know if that's technically witness tampering. Deleting the text message exchange is witness tampering, but saying stay silent and you know, call a lawyer, that's not witness. Is that witness tampering? The deletion of the text message, like the demands for deletion of the text message, does make sense as witness tampering. That is absolutely witness tampering. It's interesting because when you look at the charges and you look at all the evidence that has been presented thus far, I don't know how the right wingers are going to operate here, but like the trans person is like low key a hero in this story, like one of the good people in this story, even from the right wing assessment, right? So that hasn't stopped people from obviously saying like this is Trantifa. So he wasn't a groiper. I told you, I don't think that it was too early to make an assessment. I mean, you could still be like a lover with a trans person and be groiper, but like there isn't enough here to suggest that he's a groiper. That's why I told you like it's important to make honest assessments no matter what, even if there's a prevailing narrative. And I think for a lot of people, it won't even matter. I think for a lot of people, they will go along with, depending on their partisan framework here, depending on what they were predisposed to believe. Look, as I said, Tyler Robinson Kirk's alleged shooter came from a Mormon family, both law enforcement and military, but I'm not so certain if he himself was right-wing. A lot of memes posted on Kazings are ironic or of the left variety, different than previous far-right shooters. It's too soon to tell, but this is very important to understand as well. We're talking about like the groiper angle. Feel like you don't do this unless you're in some right-wing nihilistic brain-rotted spaces. Yeah, I saw that as well. He was talking about like the Gopnik posting. I don't know how to weigh that over the Chow Bella though. Like that could be Gopnik posting, which is across the political spectrum. Need more info. Groipers usually hail previous shooters and have way more aggressive slogans they use to signal. Are you saying that a normal guy just did it? That's terrifying. Yeah, no, yes. And it's not even a normal guy that did it. Okay. It's not even a normal guy that did it. It's also what's normal about him. It's good stock in the way that conservatives would say. This person comes from a close family, has relationships with people, is not alienated, is not isolated, has not demonstrated antisocial personality disorders, okay? Is in constant contact with other people. 4.0 GPA, Mormon family, okay? That is the reason why a lot of right-wingers, when they saw that background, immediately went, oh, this doesn't fit the profile of like anything that we've seen. Oppressive conservative family plus gun culture plus nihilistic on the value of life. It feels like it's like a situation where like you shoot a high profile conservative public speaker because you're bored. You know what I mean? I don't even think he did it for the memes necessarily. I understand why all of the law enforcement, regardless of their biases, regardless of the fact that they're trying to present this as like a clear-cut indication, a clear-cut instance of like Antifa style radicalized violence or anything. But like when you look at the background, the evidence that we have so far of the shooter's background, it does make sense as to why one could look at that and say he is like quote unquote woke or of the lib left variety. And the reason why I say that is because depending on how biased you are, depending on how right wing you are, depending on like from the perspective of a Utah Mormon family, yes, like if you have a trans roommate that you're romantically involved in, that's the most woke you can be. That's the most woke person on the planet from their perspective.